Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and today we are going to set up my new router gantry system from TrueTrac. And a lot of people might not be familiar with the term router gantry system. That's what they call it. I typically hear it called either a slab flattener or a slab mill, but it can actually do a lot more than that. I've been wanting one of these for a long time. I've been looking at a bunch of different ways to build my own. I even had the racks, the slide rails picked out, and I had a company offering to send me those slide rails, but I decided on a little bit better system that is still affordable. So the first thing I had to do before setting up the slab mill is set up a place to put it. And I want this to be something that is solid and stable for working on, but can also be moved out of the way when I'm not using it. I'm actually following the plan in the instructions to use 8 10-foot long 2x4s to build a workstation out of. Now, in the instructions, they set this frame onto sawhorses. Instead of sawhorses, I'm using the work tables that I already have here in the shop because these two are exactly the same height. When I decided I needed a slab flattening mill, I just started watching every video I could find on how to build your own slab flattener, because that's just always my mindset. If you need something, figure out how to make it. And then I went to the Paul Bunyan show, and I was at one of the indoor booths, and I saw a really nice slab mill and walked up and started talking to the owner. And that was TrueTrac, which is the system I'm setting up today. At that point, I realized that no system I build myself is going to be as nice or as efficient as this TrueTrac mill. And by the time you buy all the components and do the fabrication needed, you're really not saving that much money off buying a system like this. I also connected with the owner and their story of a father and son team building this company and building all the products here in the United States. Having done that myself, I know the challenges that you go through, and I appreciate the hustle of the owner still going to shows and how knowledgeable he was about not only his product, but the finer details of flattening slabs. Once I had the frame set up, I just had to put the rails together. And I'm not going to show that because it's really pretty simple and well explained. So as we open up the manual, you've got these really nice pictures, detailed instructions. I'm a little bit surprised that a small company has put together such a nice instruction manual, but each section has pictures of the part you're working on, detailed instructions. Follow it exactly. It's not that hard. Then for the wooden frame that I've got here, here's their plan for it. They included a drawing. And you look up your router number, it'll tell you which holes to use. Everything I've done is clearly laid out right in the book. Now, the next step is to connect this to the adjustment mechanism. And actually, you wouldn't have to. You could just do this like you would do with your homemade system. And you just put your piece of wood up there, and you just slide this across. Slide it down, slide it across. Down and across. That's how a homemade system works. This gives you the ability to screw this down and then move it in and out with the crank handle. So the next question is that really better? Because it's kind of slow turning the crank handle. Seems just a little bit tedious. But the owner of the company is really into this and gave a great explanation. He's got more detailed videos about this than what I'm going to put out. Like, he went into great detail about their custom extrusions that they do in, I believe it's Ohio, and that's where all of this is made, and about how they chose this exact composite of material that you have on the slide rails. A lot of thought has went into all of this that is just more detailed than I'm going to do. But the reason they do it the way they do it, the normal system is you slide down and back, over, down and back, over, down and back. and that gives you the best control of your workpiece. But for most of us, we're going to elongate the workpiece, long ways down this track. And he pointed out that a nice thing is if your wood starts here and you travel in this direction, it actually has a benefit that you're going with the wood grain. So that's the advantage to running it this way. The advantage to the crank handle is, well, let's look at the bits. I've got 3 different bits here. This one's, I think, 1 3/8, and it's kind of a fancier, more expensive one because it has removable carbide cutting edges. These are the cheaper blades that have a fixed cutting edge. This one is really small. I got it just in case my router couldn't handle anything bigger, and it was a 2-part set with the bigger bit and the smaller bit on this. This is the bit we're going to use right now. It's got a 1/2-inch shank on it, and it's got these cutting edges right here. This is a surfacing bit, which means nothing sticks up above it. It can cut that entire surface. So what you're going to do is you're going to make this cut that's 1 inch, 1 3/8 wide, something like that. Let me take a measurement. Okay, this bit is actually a full 2 inches. I think maybe this one's 1 3/8. So you're going to take this 2-inch bit and you're going to make your first pass. Then you're going to move over 1 inch, make a second pass. And I think you can count the turns on this. I'll have to look in the thing again. I think it was like 7 turns was 1 inch. So for this 2-inch bit, I'm going to turn this and move it 1 inch in and only take off half of the width of this on each pass. And I'll be able to do that in a more precise manner, and I won't have to try to hold my arms perfectly straight as I move. The rod's going to control that. So I actually got a little bit premature screwing this down. I'll pop this off and get the router bit in, and we'll fire it up. And I'm not sure what I'm going to surface plane right now, but we'll pick a piece of this rough cut lumber. So for a first test, just to get the hang of using this, I just grabbed this offcut here. This was actually in my slab rack. So I wasn't going to use this for anything but firewood. So it'll be good to experiment on. This next step could be pretty time consuming depending on the piece of wood you're working with. If this was warped and twisted like some of the stuff I've dealt with before, I would have to place wedges under the high spot to stabilize it before I could start. This piece of wood's actually fairly flat, and that's going to make it easier. But like I said a minute ago, it's just proof of concept. It's me making sure I understand how to use this piece of equipment. So now we need to hold this in place so it doesn't move when the router hits it. There are a couple different ways to do that. You can take some wood chunks and make a stop out of this to go in between here and butt it up against that. Or you can put a board right here and then clamp that board further back just to keep it from moving, and do that a couple times. Or if you're not going to use the whole workpiece, you can just screw it directly down. Or probably what I'm going to do is put some toenail screws next to it that just keep it from moving. I guess if we're wanting the router to kind of match the grain of the wood as it cuts, we want to square up the distance from here to the rail. Okay. Let's take a measurement here. I think 2 there and 2 on the other side ought to do it. All right, throughout the setup process, I've already leveled the bed. I've already leveled the router. That's all in the instructions that come with the unit. So now I'm going to crank this over until it's sitting on the edge of the workpiece. All right, looks like we're ready to give it a go. Okay, so those two little passes actually give us enough to see that it's working. As you see right here, we're taking off a lot more material here than we are down here. So we flattened that by 2 inches, but I don't know how much I took on the first pass. So I'm going to go another 7 turns and see if that takes us to 3 inches, and I'll know I'm going the right amount each time. Two and 3/4. I think I may have only went 6 turns. Let's do 10 turns on this one. See where we get. Ten turns. I couldn't remember if the video I saw said it took 7 turns or 11, but 10 turns took about an inch there, and that part does not have to be an exact science. So I'm going to stick with that 10 turns. So if you can see it here, we took off 1/4 of an inch here, 1/8 of an inch here, and almost nothing down here. To the naked eye, this was already pretty flat, but it really wasn't. That is a fantastic tool. I'm going to love having this thing. That was so quick and easy compared to any other way of flattening this slab. Now, putting the thing together for the first time and building this base took some time, but that's not something you have to do every time. So now, oh wow. I'm thrilled with this result. I've watched a lot of slab flattening videos lately, and they don't seem to be getting this good a result. Okay, now if you're wondering what I'm talking about on the result, it would be hard to see anyway because of all this texture and all this coloration in it. But you can see it a little bit here on the end. You can see this is a slightly different coloration than the one next to it. And basically, when I've been watching these videos, after they use a slab flattener, it's scalloped, where for whatever reason, no matter how they overlap their cuts, there's a little bit of a ridge there. And this, it exists here, but it's so minimal. What that comes down to is how much sanding are you going to have to do? And I feel like something about this, probably what he said about going with the grain and being completely consistent on the one axis of your cut, I think that had to help. Now, I don't have any plans for this piece of wood, and it wasn't particularly difficult piece of wood. In the future, we'll do some, like those epoxy glue-ups, but also just some regular lumber that I want to use that's got a real bad bow in it. And that'll be a little bit more challenging, a little bit more of a learning curve. But today, I just wanted to get it set up and figure out how it works. So, thrilled with the product, thrilled with the way today went, and that I got one of these done. I'll put links in the description of the video. I'm not affiliated with TrueTrac. They did send me this to demonstrate, but I don't have any kind of a commission structure or anything like that with them. But I'll put a link in the description of the video. I think this full size one that's 4 foot by 8 foot is around $1,000. They've got smaller models that cost a lot less, but you can also go bigger. You can make this 30 feet long if you want. Anyway, I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.